Hey everyone, welcome back to Easy Peasy English. We've had so many of you reach out lately asking for help with improving your English skills.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's really focused on leveling up their English game right
And
now.
that's great. We love that you're all so excited to learn. So for this lesson, we thought, why not share some easy tips and tricks, especially if you're just beginning?
Yeah, we're going to try to keep things super simple, really actionable stuff that you can start using right away, no matter what level you're at.
So think of this as your beginner's toolkit for English fluency.
Exactly. We're going to break it down into the 4 core skills you need: listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
And one of the biggest takeaways from all the research we've done is that consistency is key.
Absolutely. It's not about cramming or doing these massive study sessions. It's about making English a natural part of your daily routine.
Right, like weaving it into your life so it becomes a habit, not a chore.
I like that, weaving it in.
So first things first, let's talk about listening.
Okay, so listening is where it all begins, right?
Right.
It's how we all learned our first language.
Yeah, like as babies, we're just surrounded by sounds and we slowly start to make sense of it all.
Exactly. And it's the same with learning any new language. It's that foundation, that ability to understand what you're hearing, that really sets you up for success in speaking, reading, and writing.
So it's not just about hearing words, it's about actively listening, really tuning in.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is there are so many fun and easy ways to practice active listening in English.
Okay, like what? Give us some examples.
Well, one of the easiest and most enjoyable ways is through music. I mean, everybody loves music, right?
Yeah, who doesn't?
Exactly. So why not make it work for you? Pick some English language artists that you like, whatever genre you're into, and just listen.
And one of the suggestions we saw is to actually look up the lyrics online and read along as you listen.
Oh, that's a great tip. It helps you connect the sounds with the written words, which can be really helpful for beginners.
It's like karaoke for your ears and eyes.
Exactly. And another really effective way to practice listening is with movies and TV shows.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
And for beginners, a good strategy is to start with something you're already familiar with, like a movie you've seen dubbed in your native language. Watch it in English with subtitles first.
And then as you get more comfortable, challenge yourself by turning those subtitles off.
Exactly. It's like taking off the training wheels. You might be surprised how much you actually understand without them.
And even just having English radio on in the background can be helpful.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's about immersing yourself in the sounds of the language. You don't have to be actively listening to every word, but it just gets your ear accustomed to the rhythm and intonation of English.
It's like building that familiarity almost subconsciously.
Precisely. And if you have the opportunity, try attending English language events in your local community.
Like what kind of events?
Well, there might be plays put on by local theater groups, or talks at libraries, or even exhibitions with information in English.
Oh, that's a great idea. It gets you out there interacting with English in a real-world setting.
Exactly. And you never know, you might even make some new friends along the way.
Okay, so we've covered listening. Now let's move on to speaking, which can be a bit more intimidating for some people.
Yeah, I think speaking is where a lot of people hit a wall. It can feel scary to put yourself out there, especially when you're first starting out.
Totally. Like you're so worried about making mistakes or sounding silly.
But honestly, the key is just to practice as much as you can. The more you speak, the more confident you'll become.
So how can beginners ease into speaking without feeling too overwhelmed?
Well, one great option these days is online voice chats. There are so many platforms and social networks where you can find chat rooms specifically for language learning.
Oh yeah, those are awesome. You can connect with people from all over the world and practice speaking in a relaxed, informal setting.
Exactly. And it's free. You don't need to pay for expensive classes or tutors.
That's a huge bonus. And another tip we came across is to talk to yourself, like actually record yourself speaking English.
I know. It sounds a little strange.
It does, but it can be really helpful.
It is. It's like having your own personal practice session. You can talk about your day, describe things you see, anything you want, and then when you listen back to the recording.
You can pinpoint areas where you might be struggling, like pronunciation or grammar.
Exactly. And it helps you become more aware of your own speaking habits, which is so important for improvement.
It's like having a mirror for your voice.
I like that. And if you're taking an English class, don't forget about your classmates.
Yeah, that's a great point. try to speak English with them outside of class time, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Like grab a coffee together, or go for a walk, or even just chat before or after class.
Make those connections and turn your classmates into conversation buddies.
Exactly. The more you can incorporate English into your everyday interactions, the better.
Okay, we've tackled listening and speaking. Now let's move on to reading.
Reading is so important for expanding your vocabulary, understanding grammar, and just getting comfortable with the written form of the language.
It's like building those mental muscles.
Exactly. And there's so many different ways to approach reading in English. For beginners, it's often best to start with material that's familiar.
So like a book you've already read in your native language.
Exactly. Or a story that's been made into a movie you've seen. You already know the basic plot, so you can focus more on the language.
Oh, that's clever. And children's books and comics are also great options for beginners.
They are. The language is usually simpler, and the stories are often more straightforward.
And comics have that added bonus of visual cues, which can help you understand the meaning.
Exactly. Plus, they're just fun to read.
And here's a really practical tip that I thought was genius. Change the language settings on your phone or computer to English.
Oh, that's a good one. It's such a simple change, but it makes a big difference.
You're interacting with those devices all day long, so you're constantly being exposed to English vocabulary in a context you already understand.
It's like passive learning, but it's surprisingly effective.
All right, so we've covered listening, speaking, and reading. That brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, writing.
Writing can seem like a daunting task, especially for beginners.
Yeah, you're like staring at a blank page and your mind goes blank.
It happens to the best of us. But remember, writing is a skill that develops over time with practice.
So how can we make it less intimidating?
Well, one of the best ways to start is by keeping a vocabulary notebook.
Oh, that's a classic.
It is, but for good reason. Whenever you come across a new word or expression, write it down in your notebook.
Don't just write the word, though, right?
Right. Include the definition, and then try to use the word in a sentence or two.
Seeing the word in context helps you remember it better.
Exactly. And you can also start a simple diary or journal in English.
Even if it's just a few sentences each day, it helps you get into the habit of writing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And another great option is to write comments on English language blogs or forums.
Oh, yeah, I like that. It's a more interactive and less formal way to practice your writing.
Exactly. You can read what other people are saying about topics that interest you, and then share your own thoughts, even if it's just a short comment.
And you might even get some feedback from other users, which can be really helpful.
Right. And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Everyone makes mistakes when they're learning a new language.
It's part of the process.
Exactly. So don't let it hold you back.
Okay, so we've covered all 4 skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
And what's the common thread that runs through all of them?
Practice, practice, practice.
You got it. The more you immerse yourself in English, the faster you'll improve.
It's all about finding those little ways to weave English into your daily routine.
Exactly. So for those of you listening, think about what resonated with you most from this deep dive. What's one small step you can take today to improve your English skills?
It could be as simple as listening to an English song on your way to work, changing the language settings on your phone, or writing down a few new words in a vocabulary notebook.
Every little bit counts. Remember, language learning is a journey, not a destination.
So be patient with yourself, enjoy the process, and celebrate your progress along the way.
And who knows? Maybe one day you'll be fluent enough to host your own podcast about language learning.
That would be amazing. All right, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And keep practicing.